I'm Councillor Diane Donaldson, and I'll be chairing this hearing of Subcommittee C of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council. Before we start, can you all please mute your microphones for the moment in order to improve the sound quality whilst I outline the procedure. Can you also turn off your cameras with the exemption of committee members unless you are the person speaking? This is to reduce the bandwidth. Committee members will have their cameras switched on throughout the hearing. I confirm that the other two members have their cameras on. Could everyone attending today's meeting please put their mobile phones on silent and ensure they're situated in a room or environment which is free from distractions or any unnecessary noise emanating from radios, TVs, etc. Thank you for that. I'm speaking slowly and clearly so everyone can follow. It is vitally important, for what I hope are obvious reasons, that those attending the meeting and making representations are able to hear me and members of my subcommittee and officers. Any distractions brought to my attention could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. I also confirm this is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on the City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. I advise the meeting that this will be webcast for live or subsequent broadcast by the Council's meeting YouTube site. Details which we can put in the chat. And the members of the press public may record and take photographs except where there are confidential or exempt items. Declarations of interest. Members are reminded that they must declare any relevant pecuniary and non-pecuniary interest arising from the business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosable pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. No apologies submitted. Can I welcome to this hearing of an application for an expedited review in respect of the licence for Simply Local 84 to 86 Smallbrook Queensway, Birmingham B5 4EG. I'll begin with some introductions. My name is Councillor Diane Donaldson and I'm chairing the meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. With me are other members of the subcommittee, Councillors Mary Locke and Mike Sharp. Also present in the meeting are the following officers. Licensing Officer David Kennedy.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon, David. Committee Manager Phil Wright.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon, Phil. And Committee Lawyer Joanne Swampillai.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon, Joanne. Then could I ask all parties to identify themselves, please? Firstly, the applicant, West Midlands Police, Chris Jones.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you. Chris Jones, West Midlands Police Licensing Team.
Good afternoon. And next, the licence holder and or their representative. So we've got Adrian Curtis, Bal Dillon and Lackbeer Dillon.
Adrian Curtis representing and Lack Dillon and Balbeard Dillon are both on the telephone listening, but we've got no video.
Good afternoon, Adrian.
Sorry, Lack and Bell, can you just say hello to check you can hear and we can hear you, please?
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Okay, could I ask if any persons making representations wishes to withdraw their representations at this stage of the hearing?
No, Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Nobody wishes to withdraw. I will assume that all parties have read and understood the Licensing Committee's procedural rules sent out with the notice of today's hearing. Please note, given the nature of today's proceedings, I may at my discretion amend the procedural rules to reflect the fact that this meeting is taking place online, but wish to assure you all that any such amendments will not impact the party's right to a fair hearing. We'll be using the chat function in Microsoft Teams to communicate, one of the icons on the toolbar in the speech bubble. Click the speech bubble to go into chat. If you do not have access to the chat function for any reason, please use the raise a hand function to indicate you wish to speak. That's a button that's usually fourth from the right on your toolbar. You can also, of course, indicate verbally that you wish to speak at the appropriate time. Can you all confirm that you have access to the chat facility by typing your own name now?
Chair,
Yes.
sorry, I've just sent you an email. If you could just take note of it.
Okay. Phil, can you confirm that everybody's typed into the chat? They're all able to access the chat facility. So if any participant has dialed in on audio telephone rather than Microsoft Teams, please speak now. But we've already confirmed that Blackbeard and Balbir Dylan are phoning in.
Everything seems in order, Chair.
Thank you, Phil. With the exception of subcommittee members, please keep your camera off unless you're the person speaking. If there are any problems with the band which cause difficulties with the sound, I may at my discretion ask everyone to turn their cameras off in order that the meeting can proceed with everyone able to hear and be heard. Does anyone wish to make any preliminary points at this stage? If so, please indicate that you wish to raise a point by typing speak into the chat function or using the raise a hand function now. Thank you. I'll now briefly outline the procedure which we'll be following at today's hearing. Firstly, the licensing officer, David Kennedy, will present the report. Then the applicant will ask to present their case, which we're asking if this could be kept to approximately 20 minutes. Then the licence holder and their representatives will be invited to make their case. Again, approximately 20 minutes will be allowed for this part of the hearing. Can I ask all parties to speak as slowly and as clearly as they possibly can, because the officers are taking notes by hand for the minutes. And the meeting is also being live streamed on the City Council's website. If at any time it's somebody else's turn to speak, please mute your microphone and use the chat function to communicate if necessary. Please know that members of the subcommittee will be able to ask questions at any stage, but we'll try to do so at the conclusion of each presentation. Cross-examination by the applicant and those making representations will not be permitted unless the members consider it appropriate. Where questions are raised by members of the subcommittee or those present, they must signify this using the chat facility set out on the right-hand side of the screen you're viewing the meeting on. The meeting manager will alert me if I do not notice messages in the chat. I will determine verbally or in writing on the chat facility the order in which questions are dealt with. So at any point during the meeting, if you wish to speak, please type the word speak into the chat function and the meeting manager will ensure that we come to you at the appropriate moment. If at any point you cannot hear or having problems with your internet connection, please use the chat facility to alert the meeting manager. The chair will then ask the person speaking to repeat what they have just said. It is therefore important that you use the chat function as soon as you're unable to hear the person speaking. It may well be that there is a problem caused by people still having their microphones or cameras on, which creates interference. So I'll remind everyone to please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras when you're not the person speaking. Could I point out that occasionally it may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in this meeting whilst members and relevant officers withdraw to take legal advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We will then return to this meeting and continue. Phil, you wish to speak?
Sorry, Chair. Could we adjourn for a couple of minutes? I think there's something gone wrong with the script.
Okay.
If we could just go break
certainly.
into the private meeting. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. and the meeting manager will ensure that we come to you at the appropriate moment. If at any point you cannot hear or having problems with your internet connection, please use the chat facility to alert the meeting manager. The chair will then...
Sorry, Chair, to interrupt. Has the live stream been, it's just been sent live again? Sorry. The live stream hadn't started.
Yes, it has.
Okay, right. I'll resume where I started before. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Apologies for the short break. We'll resume from where we left off. Thank you. So any point in the meeting, if you wish to speak, please type the word speak into the chat function and the meeting manager will ensure that we come to you at the appropriate moment. If at any point you cannot hear or having problems with your internet connection, please use the chat facility to alert the meeting manager. The chair will then ask the person speaking to repeat what they just said. It is therefore important that you use the chat function as soon as you're unable to hear the person speaking. It may well be that the problem is caused by people still having their microphones or cameras on, which creates interference. So remind everyone to please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras when you're not the person speaking. Could I point out, occasionally it may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in this meeting or members and the relevant officers withdraw to take legal advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We'll then return to this meeting and continue. Please note that if any time the live stream being broadcast on the City Council's website fails, I will ask you all to mute your microphones and cameras and to stop speaking until the live stream is restored. If at any time this meeting goes into private session, the meeting manager will pause the live stream. Once the private part of the meeting is over, I will ask the meeting manager to confirm the live stream has resumed before we continue. At the conclusion of the hearing, I will invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. Can I stress no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard. At the decision-making stage, the members and the relevant officers will withdraw from this meeting in order to determine the decision. They will go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. In the event that members need to clarify any point, you will be telephoned by the meeting manager. I hope that's reasonably straightforward. So with that, can I ask the licensing officer, David Kennedy, to present the report, please, as slowly and as clearly as you can, please.
Thank you, Chairman. West Midlands Police have applied for an expedited review of the premises licence in respect of Simply Local, Unit 8, Norfolk House, 84 to 86, Smallbrook, Queensway, Birmingham, B5 4EG. The application has been made under Section 53A of the Licensing Act 2003 as amended and has been accompanied by a certificate signed by a senior member of the force stating that, in their opinion, the licensed premises have been associated with serious crime. A copy of the application and certificate are attached to Appendices A and B. In accordance with the regulations, the licensing authority has given the premises licence holder and responsible authorities a copy of the application for review and a copy of the certificate. This meeting has been arranged in order to consider whether it is necessary to take any interim steps in respect of the licence pending the determination of the review. A copy of the current premises licence is attached to Appendix C. The interim steps that must be considered at the meeting today are modification of the conditions of licence, exclusion of the sale of alcohol by retail from the scope of the licence, removal of the designated premises from the licence, designated premises supervisor from the licence, and or the suspension of the licence. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can the licence holder and their representative present their case now, please? So it's Adrian Curtis.
Sorry, Chair, it would be West Midlands Police as the applicant that will go first.
Sorry, my apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, councillors. I'll start. On Wednesday, the 8th of September, this year, a joint operation was conducted at the premises. The operation involved officers from the Home Office Immigration Service, Birmingham City Council Licensing Department, and West Midlands Police Licensing Team. The operation was organised and led by the Immigration Service, following information they had received that the premises were employing illegal immigrants. We attended the premises at approximately 10:50 hours and found the premises open with customers inside. There was one member of staff in the premises who was stood behind the counter behind the till. This member of staff was wearing a grey fleece with the words "Simply Local" across the left-hand chest area of the jacket. This male fitted the description given in the intelligence that the Home Office officers had received. Officers from the Immigration Service immediately detained the male, who was confirmed as being an illegal worker working at the premises. The detained male originally tried to tell immigration officers they had the right to be in the country and had a passport at his own address. The male was subsequently arrested and is currently being dealt with by the Immigration Service. Whilst in the premises, the male soon realised that it was not in his best interests to try and deceive the officers, realising that he had been caught and now had nothing to lose. With these counsellors, the male made a number of significant statements to the immigration officers. He stated he was in the country on a student visa and was in fact an overstayer. He stated that he worked at the premises for approximately a year. He said he worked approximately 45 hours per week at the premises and that he was actually paid cash in hand. He also stated that he was paid a sum of £5.50 per hour. Bearing in mind, councillors, the minimum wage in this country for an employee that is allowed to work in the country is £8.91 per hour, something which I'll come back to later. Councillors, the male that was detained was the only person in the shop and was in possession of the shop keys and was prepared to secure the premises if none of the management had arrived prior to his departure with immigration. This would indicate that this was a trusted, valued member of staff being responsible for the premises, working there on his own and having a set of shop keys. Councillors, where premises licence holder is prepared to employ legal workers, they are not only committing offences, but are actively involved in criminal activity and the exploitation of vulnerable people for the financial gain. Illegal workers have no rights or protections and are unable to declare themselves to the authorities to seek any assistance if they are required. Illegal workers have no rights to be paid the minimum wage, which benefits the employer financially. Illegal workers who are paid cash in hand, as this case, by the employer, means the correct tax and national insurance deductions are not taken into account and therefore not declared to HMRC. Cases going back to the minimum wage, the detained male said he worked at the premises for approximately a year and worked 45 hours a week. Councillors, I've done some quick maths, and the difference between the minimum wage payment for that time and what it was actually being paid at £5.50 is £7,979, nearly £8,000 that the premises were in pocket by paying him less than the minimum wage. Just as immigration officers were about to leave the shop and escort the male off site, another male came into the shop and introduced himself to the immigration officer as a friend of the owner councillors, as a friend of the owner who was prepared to take charge of the premises. At this point, councillors, obviously immigration officers were not prepared to let this male take ownership of the shop and was going to let it be secured by the member of staff. After a little more questioning by the immigration officers, and also knowing that the premises was about to be locked up and closed, only then that this male identified himself as Lakbir Singh, who is the premises licence holder and DPS. Mr. Singh also went on to state that he wasn't aware he was detailed on the premises licence. Councillors, with that, there has to be a question mark over the management of the premises. The DPS and premises licence holder didn't know who was responsible for the premises. Councillors, in that case then, who was authorising the sale of the alcohol at the premises? Who is in charge of the premises? Who is ensuring the promotion of the licensing objectives of the premises? Who is ensuring that the premises licence conditions are complied with? Or, councillors, is it just the case that Mr. Singh was trying to hide his identity from the immigration officers, knowing the seriousness of the situation with officers already at the premises? Councillors, I'll leave you with one question. Is it conceivable that someone doesn't know they are the premises licence holder and DPS of the licensed premises?
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions from members?
No questions from me, Chair.
No, thanks, Chair.
No questions from me either. Can the licence holder or their representative present their case now, please?
Thank you. We have at this hearing on the phone both Lakbir Singh and his brother Balbir Singh. We're going to hear from them in turn in respect of this matter. It reads, it doesn't sound good. It sounds like there's they're not doing what they should be doing. There are some circumstances that need to be brought to the committee's attention. There is a plausible reason why he may not think he's the licence holder, because they have two licensed businesses in the space of two doors down the road. They operate the Sunflower Lounge. There's two businesses, two brothers in licensing over different. They've had other shops with other licenses, which is the only reason why the confusion would be the case. He would either think it's him or his brother Bao, who's also on the call. But I think if I can introduce Lakbir Singh Dillon, his Lak Dillon, his Lakbir Singh, and his family name's Dillon. If I can introduce Lak and come up, if you can come off mute, please, Lak.
Hi, everybody.
Okay, so if you can just, you've heard obviously from Westlands Police licensing officer who's given the account of what has been stated by the person in your shop. How do you respond, please?
So, yeah, I'd like to respond that on the date of the 8th of the 9th, 2021, as I approached the shop around about, it was about 10:45, 10:50. As soon as I approached the shop, there was a quite large gentleman in the doorway which refused entry. So I immediately got onto the phone to my brother and said, look, there's something going on in the shop. He's informed me that it's immigration. So I
explain your brother is Balbir Singh, who's also on this call. I just wanted to check there. Okay, I've done that for you.
At that stage, I went back into the store. I didn't intentionally mislead the police. I'm pretty certain I said I'm the owner's brother, not friend. And I was totally transparent. I gave my ID, my driving license and my license as well. Didn't have nothing to hide. Answered all necessary questions. I had nothing to hide. I did get confused because I thought I was the license holder of the Sunflower Lounge, which is the shop next door, but one. So it was quite a daunting experience seeing all these officers in the store. I think there's about 8 officers in total. A lot to take in, and it all happened so quickly that I was taken back, but I didn't intentionally lie. I gave all my details. I pulled out my identification. I wasn't aware he was an illegal immigrant, and I complied with the officers, which gave me the keys, and we remained open. But it has come as a shock to me.
Okay, Lack, you said you showed your driving license and another license. Do you mean your personal license, or what license do you mean?
Personal license.
So you showed your personal license. You had your personal license on you. Okay.
I did, yeah.
Clear that up. Okay. So was it so? Just to, you were asking for the keys, weren't you? Your instructions to me this morning. You asked for the keys back, and the officers refused to give you the keys because they didn't know who you were.
Was saying that they wanted to lock up and they wasn't prepared to give me the keys. I was actually on the phone to my brother at the time, Balbia, and he said they should be giving you the keys because you're the license holder. So I said, look, here's my identification. And they said either come to Solihull to collect the keys because we don't know who you are. And I said, well, clearly I'm Lackbeer Singh Dillon, brother of the brother of the owner. Of the boss, as we call him, but until I provided identification and they took it and took copies of it and made notes of it, then they were satisfied and handed over the keys. My brother Balbia does actually run the store, and it's only been since last year I became a director for personal reasons, applying for a mortgage. So again, it's happened very recently. So I was again taken back by what was happening within the store. I mean, I didn't actually know what was happening until it sank in.
Okay, Lack. So just for a point of clarity here, just to be very clear, I've not got any paperwork. It's an expedited review. My understanding is there's obviously going to be a review in a couple of weeks' time. Technically speaking, Lackbeer is also a co-owner because he's a shareholder in the holding company, which is, if you look at the structure of the company, there's nothing to hide here. In terms of who the boss man is, it is his brother Balbia, and that's who generally is in charge. But we don't want to in any way mislead this committee for next committee to say, well, hang on a minute, here's Company's House, here's this. That's clear. It was in the moment he's responded to the officers. But he's made it very clear he wasn't meaning to mislead them in any way. Obviously, that's just explaining the first part of this. Obviously, not the root cause of the issue, which we will come to shortly. But Lack, do you have anything else to say?
Yeah, I mean, we've been trading for 7 years and we've had 0 incidents within the store. We've had no need to call the police. So we've had, like I said, no disruptions, never had any issues. Everything's been done correctly. Myself, I also sit on the Southside bid, so I'm a reputable businessman within the Southside area. We have a number of businesses employing over 70 to 80 staff members across 10 businesses. So it has come as a surprise to me as this individual was an illegal immigrant.
Okay, thanks, Lack. If we can move on now to Bal, Dillon, your brother, who we referred to as the boss earlier. So Bal, it's fair to say that you have, since we got this notice, you got this notice at about 4:16, 5 o'clock yesterday. You have checked your files and you're seeing what's happened here. Can you explain, first of all, again, the businesses in this locality, just so it's very clear how close some of them are, also the number of employees from your side you suggest in your group, if you like? I understand a couple of them are partnerships, and some of them are limited companies, and some of them have the same holding company. Can you just give the committee a background on that? Because obviously we're going to be producing in a couple of weeks' time records to back this up, HMRC and otherwise, to show this.
Hi everybody. Yes, we've got over 10 stores. We employ over 80 people, and we do check everything through everybody. So we don't know how this individual got through, but we are checking everything at the moment. But and plus we do not pay. We always no one under the minimum wage. So we always pay minimum wage or over. So we never ever had this issue before that we ever paid anybody, under the wage. But we've run our businesses around city centre. So next to the convenience store, we have a Subway, then we have the bar. We've never had no issues with anything. We always help the police when they come down, if they need to see CCTV or if anything that's happened. We've always cooperated with everybody. With the other businesses, we've got the same reputation. We've got another few more licenses with my business partners, had no issues. It's just a shame that this person got through, but we are checking our paperwork and finding out how did this happen.
Okay, thanks, Val.
Anything else?
Well, at this stage, obviously, there's going to be a hearing in a couple of weeks, the substantial review hearing, where hopefully we can provide further details on this after the checks have been made, and we can make further submissions at that point. I think that the key point to this hearing in the legal sense is that the Act says that it's up to the committee to take what steps effectively are necessary now before we get to the main substantive review hearing in a couple of weeks' time. So if we look at that, there's over 70. They're not sure exactly on the number. So if they're going to check on all those details. And we'll have the records for across 10 different businesses. One person has been obviously found to be an overstayer on a student visa. My client's instructions are that they feel misled, but it's obviously they understand the responsibility and the seriousness of it. But to take action at this point, it's not on alcohol sales. It's not saying they've sold to underage. It's not they're selling to people drinking outside on the street, causing disorder. But it's not taking away the seriousness either of what's happened. They've been served today with a notice, with a referral notice of illegal worker civil penalty notice by the appropriate authority, and that carries a maximum of a £20,000 fine. That's been arrived today in by special delivery, and they've sent me a copy of that. They're clearly going to get very punished here. In financially from that level. At the next committee hearing, we'll have records to back up the number of employees shown that they employ across, and they will clearly be going through what's gone wrong here and how they've been misled, and to see what documents they've got to provide to ensure it doesn't happen again. So the options today, as you'll be aware, are you could amend the license conditions. You could suspend the license until the next hearing in a couple of weeks. You could remove or change the activity, which seems inappropriate. And you could remove the designated premises supervisor. It's a matter, obviously, for the committee. Having a license in this store isn't necessarily what the issue is. Some of the businesses, the Subway businesses they have, haven't got a license. They don't sell alcohol and they don't sell after 11 o'clock at night hot food, but they're employing people all on the books and properly, and they'll demonstrate that. I think closing this for a couple of weeks when they're going to be financially massively punished anyway, before the review hearing, isn't going to stop something bad happening or protect anybody else. It will just be another punishment, which they're being punished anyway. However, it is a matter for the committee. Both the operators effectively have reacted quickly to these proceedings, and you've heard from them immediately, and we'll have further things to say with supporting documents in a couple of weeks' time. If I could just ask my clients here. So Lack and Bow, that is finishing our submissions, our representation effectively against the application. The application has been put by West Midlands Police. This is your chance to make the representation. Is there anything else you'd like to say before I say there are submissions at this point?
We've been on Smallbrook Queensway for 17 years. Again, we've had no incidences whatsoever within any of the 3 businesses. That includes the Sunflower Lounge, the Subway, or the Simply Local. This is the first incident which we've had without my knowledge or Balbier's knowledge, and we're trying to find out exactly what's gone wrong and have supporting documentation for the next hearing.
But you appreciate you're responsible?
Yes.
Yeah. That closes our submissions. We invite some questions. You've got everyone on the call that's relevant to these premises.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis. Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Dillon and Mr. Dillon.
Thank you.
I'll hand it over to members now if there are any questions.
Yes, please, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Sharp.
Can I ask, first off, who employed the gentleman when he first started? And is it true that he was paid cash in hand? Thank you.
Hi, I'm currently waiting for the HR man to come back into the office. She's currently on holiday, and we'll have answers to that by next week. But we do not pay cash in hand. Everything's done through the proper channels.
Thank you. Councillor Locke, any questions?
No, thank you. I don't have anything.
Okay. With that, now I'll now does West Midlands Police wish to make a closing submission?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the statement made by the Mayor saying he was paid cash in hand and being paid £5.50 an hour was made to immigration officers when he had been arrested and had nothing to lose. And in fact, it would have been in his best interest at that time to be telling the truth to immigration officers rather than actually lying to them, because he knew the game was up, if I could use that term as such. Councillors, West Midlands Police have no confidence in the management of these premises promoting the licensing objectives. They have exploited a vulnerable person, knowing he would have no rights in this country for their own financial gain, which at my maths is nearly £8,000 over a 12-month period. This is backed up by the premises licence holder and DPS, who said he wasn't aware of his responsibilities regarding the premises licence, or if in fact at the time he was attempting to deceive officers, knowing the seriousness of the situation, having immigration at the premises when there was illegal immigrants working there. West Midlands Police request that the licence is suspended at this time. Councillors, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Finally, does the licence holder or their representative wish to make a closing submission?
Mr. Dillon, do you have, Mr. Messrs. Dillon, anything else to say? My close is effectively it's a matter for the committee if they think it's necessary to stop serious crime continuing. If they believe it's not necessary, it's not needed. Therefore, if they think it's continuing and it is needed, well, it's a different matter. One of the options is obviously removal of the DPS on the premises licence, which is an option at this time. That would be if they've said they've got no confidence in that person, that's Lack Singh Dillon, and that's one of the options which we would urge you to consider, rather than a closure of the alcohol sales, which is a substantial part of this business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dillon, anything else? Or are you happy now? There.
No, I'd like to reiterate, I did not intentionally mislead the police. I was cooperative with them. I am aware of my responsibilities. I've been there a number of years, respected member of the Southside bid. I wouldn't have been in a position if I was doing anything untoward. So I'd urge to consider not revoking the licence. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, finally, well, thank you for that. The members, the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session while the subcommittee makes its decision. We will rejoin this meeting then when we will announce the substantive decision of the subcommittee with the full written reasons for the decision being sent out before the end of statutory time limit. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Join you in 15 minutes past 3.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and welcome back to the Licensing and Public Protection Meeting Subcommittee. We've deliberated, we've made our decision, so I'd just like to announce the decision. The licence will be suspended pending review of the licence. Such a review to be held within 28 days of receiving Chief Officer of Police's application, and that Mr. Lakbir Singh be removed as a designated premises supervisor. The written reasons will follow within the time limit and probably later on today. Thank you everyone for attending today's meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, bye. Bye everyone.
Bye.